Is Mario Party a luck-based game? The answer is yes, of course it is. But less than people tend to think. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that Mario Party's greatest trick is gaslighting a player into believing that luck matters more than it actually does. Yes, luck is a critical factor, but skill, knowledge, and experience have a much greater impact on the outcome of the game. An experienced player will almost always win over a newbie due to both their minigame skills and ability to play the board game. So why do so many people think that luck matters so much? Well, everyone knows how the Mario Party experience works. 4 people walk into a room, they set up a switch, boot up Mario Party, somebody inevitably chooses Waluigi, everyone starts cursing their luck, friendships get destroyed, and then everyone claps when the game ends.
Wait, yes! I did it!
A fun afternoon for everyone involved. It's an experience which people regularly find themselves coming back for, time and time again, both across multiple sessions and multiple games, resulting in a hugely lucrative spin-off series. Mario Party is one of the most popular board game style video games ever, with the series encompassing a whopping 19 mainline entries, 13 of those being on home consoles and 6 on handheld consoles, and an additional 7 licensed arcade games made by Capcom, but we don't need to care about those. Considering how poorly most board game and minigame style video games tend to sell compared to other video game genres, the Mario Party series' level of success is exceptionally notable. While it's very easy and tempting to casually attribute that success to the Mario IP, that isn't a perfectly fair statement. Don't get me wrong though, Mario as an IP is unquestionably powerful and should never be underestimated, being the 8th highest grossing media franchise of all time for good reasons. The IP's name undeniably pulls a lot of heavy lifting, but that isn't the only reason for why Mario Party as a franchise succeeds so well. If its success was solely due to the IP alone, you wouldn't see people be so hyped for new games. Imagine if we got a new Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Mario Kart, Final Fantasy Tactics, or Persona Arena. There'd be hype. Yes, the IP branding is important, but fans of those games will also frequently praise the game's story, gameplay, and other qualities too. Those games are still good games, just not cheap licensed cash grabs. Same applies to the Mario Party series. Jamboree's announcement was met with excitement from players of all backgrounds because Mario Party has consistently, across multiple games, proven itself to be a fun time, except for those 2 times. The games aren't solely popular because streamers and content creators see it as a golden goose to mass produce content with. Professional internet funny men may need to constantly make content to pay the bills, but they are still players and people too, just like you or me, and still enjoy games for fun. It's not as if they'd be foolish enough to force themselves to game to the point of physical injury and get like, I don't know, carpal tunnel from button mashing or something. Luck, or a player's perception of it, is a huge contributing factor to the series' success, helping keep the experience fun for players of all backgrounds. Anyways, what I'm saying is that there's more to Mario Party's success than just Mario alone. The developers didn't just coast on Mario's name to sell the game. They had to make sure the party itself is also fun, or the game won't sell. After all, look at what happened with Mario Parties 9 and 10. Nobody liked riding around in the car, and those games were disliked and didn't sell. If you were a Wii U owner who bought Mario Party 9 expecting it to be as good as previous entries, rest assured, I can personally empathize with that moment of crushing disappointment. I too was let down. At least Wind Waker was there to cheer me up. Now that we're on a more positive tone, let's discuss game design. We've got 2 key questions to examine for today. The first, how does Mario Party's design manipulate a player's perception of luck for fun? The second, what are some of the factors which make Mario Party as a board game feel fun. For the scope of this video, we are focusing primarily on the board game aspect and only lightly touching on the minigames. I understand that the minigames are arguably the other 50% of what makes Mario Party the fun game it is, but there's also like over 100 of them. Trying to give any sort of analysis on them would take forever, and we'd eventually arrive at the conclusion that Bowser's Big Blast is the best minigame.
Arg, I'm gonna pick green because it's the color of money.
Again?
And he'll live.
Good shit, good shit, good shit, good shit.
For that same reason, it isn't possible for me to cover every little detail about every single board or mechanic. There's just way too much for just one dude to handle alone. I might have experience and knowledge as a game designer, but I've still got limits. This channel's a one-man show. I've still gotta write, record, and edit, all while juggling my master's studies. Sometimes I really envy full-time content creators. Looks like a fun time. Makes me wish I was less stubborn and ambitious about wanting a game industry career so I wouldn't have to put myself through studying again. Forget it. We are here to listen to a Mario Party video, not my monologuing. So, let's get started. Here are some of the more overlooked game design considerations taken to subconsciously influence how you, as a player, perceive and interact with Mario Party. As I said at the beginning of this video, Mario Party is indeed heavily luck focused. However, much of the skill involved in getting good at the game is about managing that luck. By itself, luck is a skill. That isn't a joke. I am saying that unironically. It is possible to get good at Mario Party beyond just the minigames by managing your luck. Luck management is a skill that is actively taught, trained, and used in actual financial and business academia and real work. In those industries, it goes by a different name: risk assessment and risk management. Many things, both within various games and real-life scenarios, are all bound by a chance and probability of taking place. If people cannot assess those probabilities, they cannot accurately evaluate the difference in chances of success for different choices. This makes every outcome appear fully random. To put it simply, everything is all about perception. Blind luck is only perceived to be random by people who lack skills needed to both estimate probability and manage risk and luck, which is understandably most people, me included. Financial risk assessment and management is a difficult skill to train. Fortunately, Mario Party luck management is comparatively easier to develop, owing to lower stakes. However, most people playing Mario Party lack even that, because most of us are casual players. By design, Mario Party is an incredibly casual-friendly game with a low barrier to entry and moderate skill ceiling, and has many design elements which blur the lines between a newbie and veteran. Certain genres like fighters or tactics games have an intrinsically higher than average barrier to entry because they demand good reactions, quick decision making, or in-depth knowledge of various metagame concepts like matchups, combos, and strategies. In those genres, the skill difference between players is hugely evident, with new players rarely getting to accomplish anything and being easily defeated as a result. Inversely, genres like party games are easy to play. There is still room for skill and mastery, but new or inexperienced players are still able to easily jump in, accomplish something, and have fun. Like I said earlier, it's all about perception. Even if they are losing, Mario Party is set up such that new players will not perceive the skill difference, partially because the number of luck-related elements conceals the skill difference, and luck management itself being a rather underappreciated skill. The first piece of this perception puzzle is stars. Specifically, the scoring system. Stars as a scoring system are designed to create a perception of close competition between players. Have you ever seen people just give up partway through a game? Many players will tend to get demoralized and just lose hope in playing if they see a huge gap build up between them and the opponent, because they perceive the game's outcome as being a foregone conclusion. However, if a contest is kept neck and neck, players will continue to play under the hope and belief that they can catch up, and that their efforts can still make a difference and influence the outcome of the game. Mario Party's score system helps create this perception of closeness by using small numbers. An opponent having an 80% health lead over you feels huge, but a gap of 3 stars doesn't feel quite as insurmountable. Getting a star requires a fair bit of effort. You need to gather 20 coins, typically through winning minigames, and race against the other players to reach the constantly changing star location first. However, when a player sees a star, they don't see all the effort behind it. They only see the end result, 1 point. This means that a comeback still feels possible at any given point in the game, which keeps players invested in playing even during the final few turns. This is helped by another crucial element of perception manipulation: liquidity. One of the more unusual aspects of stars as a scoring system is that they can both increase and decrease over the course of the game. For most games, scoring and progress are typically one-way and inflexible. If you score a point, that point stays intact, and the contest is primarily about who can score more points. If the goal is to reduce the opponent to 0 HP, once you deal damage, that HP might not be coming back. However, stars are what we call liquid assets. Even if you get a star, that star isn't fixed to you and can be lost or transferred. Remember that 3-star gap and all the effort needed to build that lead? Well, if you steal 1 star from that player, suddenly that gap is completely erased. There are a few key mechanics in Mario Party that can cause a sudden shift in stars. Chance time and Bowser spaces are luck-based mechanics which can potentially result in a loss or transfer of stars, while hidden blocks have a chance to give out a free star. Boo spaces can also let players steal stars for an expensive 50 coin fee, but that doesn't rely on luck to use. These mechanics are actually quite rare. Not only are chance time, Bowser, and Boo spaces few in number, but some boards give players some degree of control over them. Some boards lock chance time and Boo behind a gate which requires a skeleton key item to open, incentivizing planning to access them. Bowser's tiles are few in number and are highly visible and sometimes placed along avoidable routes. In all the above cases, luck management can help maximize the chances of you stealing a star or minimize the chances of you losing a star via strategic use of items. Let's say you are on the path to a Bowser space and are 5 spaces away. Roll the dice normally and you have a 1 in 10 chance to roll a 5 and land on Bowser, but use a double dice and the odds of rolling a 5 fall to a 1 in 25 chance. The inverse also applies. Let's say you decide to go gambling with chance time, or decide to withdraw all the coins from the Koopa Bank. You can increase your odds of landing on a specific tile by using a cursed dice block to halve the number of possible outcomes. Use a slow dice block to make it easier to pick a number, or just remove probability entirely and use a custom dice block to choose the number you want. The hidden block is the only truly random source of stars. Fortune truly favors you if that happens. The only constant factors you cannot control control are the actions of other players. And again, since Mario Party is such a casual, friendly game, there is a good chance you'll end up with a few players who frequently stumble into these luck-based events, creating the casual perception that a possible comeback in stars could happen at any given time, when in truth an experienced player knows how to avoid these pitfalls and maintain their lead. The second piece of the puzzle is coins, the economy and resource system. I mentioned earlier that stars are liquid assets. However, their liquidity doesn't come remotely close to that of coins. The number of ways to earn, lose, and transfer coins in Mario Party is ridiculous. Unlike with stars, there are so many potential ways to gain and lose coins that micromanaging your coin supply is functionally impossible, with the majority of board events either giving or taking away coins in varying amounts. The high frequency of coin movements among the 4 players and the game is a huge reason why Mario Party is perceived to be so focused on luck. At any given time, players could suddenly gain or lose coins unexpectedly from interactions with the board events or each other, and even the most consistent supply of coins, the minigames, is subject to random selection. While you can improve your own skills at minigames to earn coins more consistently, nobody is going to argue that the coin flow in Mario Party isn't heavily luck-based. However, money doesn't matter. Well, it does, but it also doesn't. Coins are the primary resource used to do things in the game. You can use them to purchase items from the shop, gamble in versus minigames, buy stars, and so on. However, they do not directly win the game for you. They only help you buy things which help you win the game. You still need to actually play the board and reach the stars to win. Even if you control all the money in the game but fail to get a single star, you are still in last place. We are not playing Monopoly or the Game of Life here. Mario Party is the significantly more fun game anyway. The player gains no benefit from hoarding money like a dragon. To a degree, the game's design pretty much outright disincentivizes stockpiling coins because you lose them so easily. Certain coin-based events penalize you based on a percentage of your existing coin count. Having more coins on hand just means you have more to lose. Talk about progressive income tax. In a way, Mario Party is a very consumption-driven economy, kinda like the US.
Let's redistribute a little bit of that wealth, Bowser. Come on,
Please
come
no
on,
communism.
I
I
wanna live in a
love
capitalist
communist society where the poor struggle.
Players are incentivized to spend money as frequently as possible to perform more board actions, only saving enough for stars and a bit of liquidity for general spending money and to help with general issues. In other words, having money kinda cringe.
Having money, kind of cringe.
To summarize, the simultaneously important yet oddly inconsequential nature of coins is a big part of the perception of luck and fun of Mario Party. The high frequency of coins being gained or lost throughout the game forms an impression of the game being highly luck-driven, helped by players not actively micromanaging or paying attention to their coin supply. Players either winning coins through lucky events or causing other players to lose coins can also make for fun, luck-based gameplay. The general usefulness of coins for board actions gives the outcomes of luck actual weight and consequence. However, because the gain or loss of coins does not directly impact your victory, the actual impact of luck on the game is inherently limited because it is very rare to lose a star via luck alone. But since players see coin totals constantly shifting as a result of luck, and they also know that stars being lost or transferred due to luck is possible, they develop the perception that stars have a greater liquidity than they actually do. This perception keeps all players invested in the game. The perception of luck makes the idea of a possible comeback an achievable fantasy for all players. The end of game bonus stars mechanic also adds to this, as these are effectively randomly given based on unknown metrics which cannot be actively planned or played around consistently. In truth, Mario Party does not actually involve any sort of comeback mechanic whatsoever. There is no super meter or blue shell. The game does not give losing players any extra bonus, nor does it penalize the winning player. In fact, the final 5 turns bonus could go to any player for arbitrary reasons, and the impact of the item you get varies heavily in usefulness. And despite Chance Time having a reputation for swinging a game, it doesn't show any preference to players. It's equally likely for the first place player to steal a star from the last place player as vice versa. But since comeback mechanics are such a common feature in most games, it is very easy to mistake Mario Party for having them too. Now, the final piece of the puzzle, time. Ever heard of the law of large numbers? Maybe if you gamble a lot. It is a law of mathematics and probability which states that a large number of independent observations will eventually converge to the true value. Given sufficient trials, inconsistencies due to random situations will get rendered inconsequential. It sounds complicated, but in a nutshell, what it means is that the impact of luck is gradually reduced the longer a game stretches on for. Say you get really lucky and steal a star from another player via chance time. That's a big swing in the game state. If a game only lasted 10 turns, that one chance time could have basically decided the outcome of the game. However, Mario Party lets players adjust the number of turns per game. 10, 15, 20, even 30 turns. Games can last for over an hour. In longer games, the impact of each individual turn is much lower, and the impact of exceptionally good or bad luck gets diluted. In longer games, differences in players' skill become more pronounced, as experienced players gradually win more minigames over time, purchase more resources, and move across the board more often. These are each small victories, but they add up over time. Winning in Mario Party is all about consistently doing well in multiple different minigames across multiple turns. For a single lucky turn to overcome a substantial skill difference, it requires something extreme, like swap all your stars between first and last place players during the last few turns of the game, which is such an extreme scenario that you need to be comically lucky or unlucky for that to happen.
Wait, do I steal all of them?
Oh my god!
No! What?
We swap all the stars!
Hey, Linkus, you're a pretty cool guy now. Don't worry. I never hated you.
Yes!
Oh my god!
What?
Oh,
Jeffy,
Mario
but
Party
it could have
so
been worse.
hard.
It couldn't have been worse.
Generally, the longer a game goes on for, the more that gap in skill and experience manifests into results. And this difference cannot be so easily erased by a few lucky or unlucky turn outliers. However, players won't perceive that, because that requires them to look at the entirety of a very long game. Chances are, most players are just enjoying the game and living in the moment, or are only focused on short-term goals like the next star. For players like these, the experience and emotions of winning and losing are also spread out across the multiple turns and minigames. Winning a minigame or having a good turn will always feel good, and because of how long the game goes on for, losing a minigame or having a bad turn feels mostly inconsequential and is easily brushed off. Remember, player perception doesn't always match the reality of results. Players don't just look at numbers. Humans are emotional and act based on how they feel and perceive things in the moment. When you have a long game with many minigames, you're going to inevitably win a couple, and those small victories add up to a good feeling. Now for some nice quality of life. The elements which go unnoticed but help make the game function smoothly. Next point is the simplest yet also the most important factor: engagement and time. Having long games is great, but can the game even afford them? Riddle me this, my dear viewer. Think back to the last time you played a card or board game and tell me, when did you feel the most bored when playing that game? Traditional or digital game? Take your pick. Go take a second to think. Pause the video if you want. Some of you might answer about some game mechanic unique to the game, but the answer is a lot simpler and also universal to all games. It's when you are waiting to take your turn. It's the least interesting part of any game, because the only thing you, as a player, can do is just sit and wait for your turn to come back around again. That's boring. No way around it. Now consider that many games involve multiple players, and some games might involve very long turns consisting of multiple complex actions like Risk, or have mechanics which forcibly skip players' turns like Uno. It's especially frustrating if you have that one player who spends forever thinking about his turn and holds up the game for everybody else. Until the game calls on you, all you can do is talk to your friends, stare into space, or take out your phone. In other words, idle time is the period when you, as a player, are most likely to disengage from the game. Maintaining player engagement is one of the most important things for every game, regardless of genre or format. During gameplay sections, a player should ideally always be given immediate objectives to focus on, things to do, or minor distractions to click on. One of my old professors back during my DigiPen days told me the optimal number of things to do was 3, because 2 makes for an easy binary choice and 4 starts having decision paralysis issues. You know, maybe Mista and Jin were right to be so obsessed with that number. Back to some moments in games such as TF2 and Overwatch's pre-match times, which give you a room full of stuff to knock around and character taunts to use in interacting with other players, or Hearthstone and Runeterra, which have little interactables on the boards to fiddle with while you wait for your opponent to finish summoning their army of large green men, which will later allow them to summon an army of even larger green men. In some ways, a player is like a house cat. You need to keep shining a laser pointer to keep them entertained. Idle time is a problem for cutscenes too, since that's when a player puts the controller down to watch a movie. Cutscenes rely solely upon narrative engagement to hold player attention, which is subjectively inconsistent due to player differences. Hence why most games tend to either try to keep them short, space them out between gameplay segments, or let a disinterested player skip them entirely. However, traditional style board and card games have no workaround for the issue of idle time. Unless the game is structured around all player actions executing simultaneously, you're just stuck waiting for your turn to roll back around again. Mario Party mitigates this by keeping each player's turn very short. Each turn, a player can only do a few things: roll dice, use an item, or check the map, all of which are executed very fast in-game. Notice that after you roll the dice, the characters execute all actions automatically and only prompt the player prior to the destination tile if they encounter events which activate upon walking past, like a crossroad, Boo, Koopa Bank, or the star. The amount of manual player input and the time spent on that is kept minimal. None of that pick up a token and count the spaces to move nonsense. Even the map is optimized to easily display relevant information, such as the player's number of spaces to the star, and when the player encounters a crossroad, they are visibly shown their possible endpoints. On average, assuming nobody spends ages thinking or triggers a board event, each player's turn takes approximately 15 seconds. Multiply that by 3 players, excluding yourself because you get to actually do things and that's fun, and the idle time per round can be kept to under 1 minute before a minigame. Happening spaces and board events can also extend the time, but their general uncommonness makes them engaging for the other players to watch. Board events which involve all players to participate, such as Bowser spaces, can also improve the ratio of engagement to idle time. That's a really short idle time compared to most board games. These few seconds don't sound consequential, but when you multiply these seconds over multiple turns, it adds up to several minutes being saved, and makes the game feel quick, responsive, and comfortable to replay, letting the game afford to stretch on for long 30-turn sessions without feeling too exhausting or boring. When you compare Mario Party to something like Dokapon Kingdom, it's like comparing the Shinkansen to a shuttle bus. Each player turn in Dokapon has them use items, roll dice, manually move their character across a large and complex map, engage in RPG combat and other miscellaneous actions. It's so slow. Each session of Dokapon takes so much time, the whole game feels like a huge commitment to play, let alone replay. Mario Party's quick game pacing and lack of dead idle time is a huge reason why the game is so fun to not just play, but also watch. Mario Party is popular among streamers for a good reason. Final point we'll cover: randomness for variety and unpredictability. Every Mario Party game is different. Even if you play the same board with the same players with the same characters, the number of random variables in play make each game feel varied and unique. It's very different from, say, chess.
I can't believe what we're seeing! What just happened?
In games like those where all RNG is removed and the only variables are your opponents, the outcomes are pretty much foregone conclusions and replaying the game isn't quite as fun. Whereas with Mario Party, every time you start a game, you might end up playing different minigames, visit different parts of the board, or roll different dice and activate different events. These are all subject to random chance. In other words, luck. And it adds a lot to Mario Party's overall replayability. This influences a player's perception of luck in Mario Party because, well, these are elements of luck and randomness. So even though you might have lost the previous time you played with your friends on this board, these random elements can produce a different game the next time you play. Part of the general issue of games, which place a heavy emphasis on skill, is that the outcomes of those games are fairly predetermined. If you play a match of, say, Street Fighter, the winner is almost always the better player. In an online context, that is fine because there's an infinite number of potential opponents that exist. And in a competitive context, it is also fine because the entire point of competition is to have a fair and balanced match. But Mario Party exists in in a party and social context. It's something you can regularly play with a group of friends every once in a while when you meet up to hang out. In such casual settings, everybody already knows how good everyone else is. If they play a skill-based game, the outcome is more or less a foregone conclusion. It's whoever is the best or most experienced player. Games like Smash Bros, Team Fortress 2, and Mario Party excel in casual settings because elements of randomness and luck greatly help to blur the perceived lines of skill and keep the outcome feeling unpredictable. When you are a new player, you perceive a game differently from an experienced player. To an experienced player, scoring a win based on luck is inconsequential. They've played the game long enough that it just blurs into a fog of memory of past matches. But to a new player, they still haven't gotten that win yet, which means that one lucky win is more inclined to stick in their minds and leave them with a positive experience. They won't care if they themselves lose to bad luck because they were already likely losing in the first place and might not even be aware that luck was the cause of it. They only focus on the few wins they do get and won't care if it's the result of their own luck or skill. That said, these games do allow enough room for skill such that the more skilled player will usually win. They aren't as random as, say, Uno. However, while experienced players know this doesn't matter, less experienced players don't, and will feel happy when luck allows them to sneak in the occasional small win here or there. This is the reason why, despite having over 2,000 hours in TF2, I hold the controversial opinion that I like having random crits in casual games. Same goes for items in Smash. Random bullshit is fun. Change my mind. Anyways, this isn't a TF2 video, nor a Smash Brothers one. Maybe we can leave that story for another day. Random lucky elements like these add a lot to the amount of variance which can be found in every game, keep the game experience fun and interesting across multiple sessions, and gives new players the fantasy that luck can favor them for a win. Again, it just adds to the replayability and retention of Mario Party and those games for casual players. There is nothing more demoralizing than trying a new game and getting crushed underfoot by a veteran. These occasional rare high moments help keep these casual players engaged, invested, and happy with the game. I think now is a good time to call it a day. Like I said earlier, we can't cover every single little detail about Mario Party because it's far too much for one guy to handle, and this video has already gone on for long enough. Mario Party is a very long-running game series. There's no shortage of game design decisions made over the years to balance luck and influence how players perceive it. Think about stuff like the changing selection of items in the shops, the distribution and types of minigames to play, how Bowser spaces function, dueling, the leaderboard constantly being displayed, and that's not even counting the multitude of gimmicks and game mechanics unique to each board. Perhaps you've even come to a few realizations of your own. If you have, do feel free to discuss in the comments about it. Jamboree should be out by the time you are watching this. If you're playing it right now, I hope you're having a fun time with it.